stop. Just stop for a moment. Whatever you're doing right now, put it down. Because this message, this exact message, did not find you by accident. I need you to understand that. You didn't stumble here. You were guided here. There is a reason your eyes are reading these words right now. There is a reason this video appeared in front of you today. And if you'll just be still for the next few minutes, everything will begin to make sense. Everything. I'm talking about the confusion you've been carrying. The silence in your chest that nobody else seems to understand. The relationship that fell apart. The person who walked away. The door that closed. The love that disappeared without a real explanation. I'm talking about all of it. Because heaven has been watching. And heaven has something to say to you today. Let me tell you something that most people never get to hear. Most people go through their lives feeling unseen, feeling like they're struggling in silence, feeling like they're carrying their pain alone in a room, at 3 in the morning, at 4 in the morning, when the world is asleep, and their heart is louder than ever. But here's what heaven wants you to know today. You were never alone in that room. Not once. Not on the night you cried into your pillow. Not on the morning you woke up and the first thought you had was about that person. Not on the afternoon you stared at your phone, waiting for a message that never came. You were never alone. I have been there, standing at the edge of your awareness, watching over you, keeping something much darker from reaching you, while you were too consumed by your pain to even notice. And I need you to understand something very important right now. What you went through, that relationship ending, that person leaving, that connection breaking apart, it was not a punishment. It was not a mistake. It was not a sign that you were unworthy of love. It was intervention, divine intervention. And if you stay with me through this message, you're going to understand exactly why. I want to talk to you about those early morning hours. Because there's something that happens between 3 and 5 in the morning that most people don't talk about. The world goes quiet. The noise of the day disappears. And you're left alone, with the truest version of yourself. No distractions, no performance, no pretending, just you. And in those early morning hours, something stirs. You feel it, don't you? That restlessness, that weight on your chest, that loop of thoughts that just keeps playing. His face, her voice, that last conversation, the moment everything changed. In those hours, you replay it all, over and over again, trying to find the moment where it went wrong, trying to understand what you missed, trying to figure out what you could have done differently. And here's what breaks my heart to watch. Because I have been watching. Every single night, you sit in that darkness, and you carry the weight of something that was never meant to be yours to carry. You blame yourself. You question your worth. You wonder if something is fundamentally broken inside of you. And those thoughts, those dark, quiet, 4 a.m. thoughts, they are not your voice. They are not God's voice. They are the voice of something that has been trying to get into your life for a very long time. And it found its way in. Through that relationship. I need you to really hear what I'm about to say. Because this is where most people close off. This is where people get defensive. This is where the ego says, no, that's not what this was. But your spirit already knows the truth. Your spirit has always known. And that's why you couldn't sleep. That's why those early morning hours were so heavy. Because somewhere deep inside you, a part of you was already aware that something in that relationship was not what it appeared to be. There were signs. There were moments where something felt off. A comment that didn't sit right. A pattern you noticed but told yourself you were overreacting. A coldness that would come out of nowhere. A warmth that felt conditional. You felt it, but love does what love does. It hopes. It adjusts. It gives the benefit of the doubt. It tries harder. It bends itself into impossible shapes trying to fit into a space that was never designed for it. And you bent. God saw you bending. And that's why He moved. Not to hurt you, not to punish you, but to pull you back. To pull you out of something that was slowly, quietly, marking you. Now I want to speak to you very directly about something. Because there is a spiritual truth about certain relationships that most people are never told. Not every connection that feels like love is sent from above. Some connections are tests. Some connections are traps. And some connections are doorways. Doorways that, if you walk through them, lead you somewhere you were never supposed to go. Think about who you were before that relationship. Think about the dreams you had. The things you believed about yourself. The plans you were building. The version of yourself that existed before that person came into your life. Now think about who you became inside that relationship. Did you grow? Or did you shrink? Did you expand? Or did you contract? Did your light get brighter? Or did something in you start to dim? Because here's what heaven wants to reveal to you today. There are people who come into your life specifically to mark you. Not with love, not with blessing, but with confusion, with doubt, with insecurity, with patterns that attach themselves to your spirit like weights, slowing you down, keeping you low, keeping you distracted, while your destiny waits for you just out of reach. And the mark they leave, it's not always visible. It shows up in how you talk to yourself. It shows up in how small you start to think. It shows up at 4 in the morning. When you're lying in the dark, wondering if you're enough. That right there, that is the mark. And I have been watching someone try to place that mark on you. Every single day, I want to stop for a moment and just acknowledge you. Because what you've been going through, it's real, it's heavy, and you've been carrying it with more grace than you realize. Nobody knows how many times you almost sent that message. Nobody knows how many times you picked up your phone, typed out everything you wanted to say, and then deleted it. Nobody knows about the nights you told yourself you were finally over it. And then something small, a song, a smell, a memory, brought it all rushing back. Nobody knows how hard it's been to pretend in front of people. To smile, to say, I'm fine. To keep showing up, to keep functioning, when inside there's a part of you that's still standing in the moment it all fell apart. Frozen, trying to understand. I see that. God sees that. And this message today is heaven's way of reaching down into that frozen place. And saying, I know, I see you, and I need you to keep reading. Now I need to go deeper. Because what I've shared with you so far is just the surface. What's underneath is what you really need to understand. There is a battle that takes place in the spiritual realm that most people never perceive. But it is very real. And it operates through the most intimate parts of human experience. Through relationships, through love, through the deep longing every human being has to be connected, to be chosen, to belong to someone. That longing is sacred. God placed it in you. It is one of the most beautiful parts of being human. And because it is sacred, because it is powerful, it is also targeted. The enemy of your soul knows that if he can corrupt your closest relationship, he can corrupt everything. If he can make you feel rejected by the person closest to you, he can make you feel rejected by everyone, including God. That is the strategy. That is what was happening. Not just a breakup, not just two people growing apart. A calculated spiritual maneuver, designed to reach the deepest part of your heart and plant seeds of unworthiness there. Seeds that, if left unaddressed, grow into walls. Walls that keep love out. Walls that keep God's blessings at a distance. Walls that keep you safe, but also alone. And that is why this message was sent to you today. Because those seeds need to be pulled out. Right now. Before they take root any deeper. Before I continue, I just want to say, if this message is landing somewhere real in you today, if something in your spirit is stirring, stay with this channel, because messages like this one are released regularly. not to entertain, but to reach the people who need them. Stay connected to messages like this. Your spirit will thank you. Let me ask you something. And I want you to really sit with this question. What was the version of yourself that you kept hidden in that relationship? Who were you not allowed to be? What parts of yourself did you shrink? What dreams did you stop talking about? What passions quietly disappeared? What did you stop believing about yourself? Because here's the truth that heaven is revealing to you today. Sometimes God allows a relationship to end, not because He doesn't want you to have love, but because He wants you to find yourself again. The version of you that existed before someone else's preferences, before someone else's limitations, before someone else's fear became your ceiling. There is a you that has been waiting, patiently, quietly, just on the other side of this pain. A version of you that is bigger, freer, more aligned with the purpose God designed for your life. And that version of you could not emerge while you were in that relationship. The relationship had to end, not because you failed, but because you are being called forward. And where you're being called, that person could not go with you. Now I need to come back to those early morning hours. Because I told you at the beginning of this message that someone has been in your room at 4 a.m. And I need to explain what I mean by that. Because this is not meant to frighten you. This is meant to open your eyes. In the spiritual realm, there are forces that are drawn to human vulnerability. They cannot touch you. They cannot harm you directly. But they can whisper. And they are most active in the hours of weakness. The hours of doubt. The hours when your defenses are down. The hours when you're tired. When you're grieving. When you're lying in the dark, replaying everything that went wrong. Those whispers are not your thoughts. Those thoughts that say you're not enough. That say you'll never find real love. That say there's something wrong with you. That say the best days are behind you. That say maybe you should reach out to that person. Maybe you should settle. Maybe you deserve what you got. Those are not your thoughts. And they are not God's voice. They are interference, spiritual interference, targeting your weakest moments, trying to use your pain as a doorway. But here's what you need to know. Every single night that you've been lying there in that darkness, I have been there too, standing between you and those whispers, keeping them from landing, keeping the worst of it from reaching your spirit. You are not as defenseless as you feel. You never have been. Let's talk about something that might be uncomfortable. Because love and truth sometimes require a conversation you don't want to have. I want to talk about patterns. Your patterns. Not to shame you, not to blame you, but because you cannot break a pattern you haven't acknowledged. And there is a pattern in your relationships. You know what it is. You've felt it before. Maybe it wasn't this person. Maybe it was someone before them. Or someone before that. There is a type, not always a physical type. An energetic type. A person who needs to be needed. Or a person who is emotionally unavailable. Or a person who starts strong and fades. Or a person who loves you loudly at the beginning and quietly less as time goes on. There's a pattern. And here's the painful truth that heaven needs you to face today. Patterns don't break themselves. They repeat, until they are seen, until they are named, until the wound underneath them is addressed. Because every pattern has a wound at its root. A belief about yourself. A story you've been telling yourself since you were young. Maybe it was planted by a parent. Maybe it was planted by a childhood that didn't feel safe. Maybe it was planted by the first person who ever made you feel like love was conditional. And every relationship since then has been an unconscious attempt to rewrite that story, to finally be chosen, to finally be enough, to finally have someone stay. But God is saying to you today, that story ends here, not because you've failed, but because you are finally ready to be healed. I want you to sit with something for just a moment. The discomfort you're feeling right now. Whether it's grief, whether it's confusion, whether it's anger, whether it's loneliness, Whether it's a strange mix of all of those things at once. That discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong with your life. That discomfort is a sign that your life is changing. And change, real change, the kind that reroutes your destiny, never feels comfortable. It feels like loss. It feels like disorientation. It feels like standing in a room you don't recognize, wondering how you got there. It feels like 4 a.m. It feels like silence. It feels like waiting. But here's what no one tells you about the waiting. The waiting is not empty. The waiting is active. Something is being prepared for you right now. Something is being built on your behalf. Something is being cleared away. Something is being put in place. And the reason you can't see it yet is because it requires the darkness of not knowing to develop. Like a photograph. You can't develop a photograph in the light. You need the darkness. You need the waiting room. You need the not yet. And that is exactly where you are right now. Right in the middle of the developing. Right in the sacred, uncomfortable space between who you were and who you are becoming. I want to shift something now. I want to shift the energy of this message. Because we've gone deep into the pain. And that was necessary. Truth requires that we look at hard things directly. But now heaven wants you to hear something different. Something that your soul has been desperate to hear. Let me tell you what God sees when He looks at you. Not the version of you that's been broken down by grief. Not the version of you that's been running on empty. Not the version of you that's been questioning everything. The version of you that God created before you were born. The version of you that exists in eternity. The real you. God sees someone extraordinary. He sees someone who has a capacity for love. That is rare in this world. He sees someone who has been through things that should have broken them. And kept going. He sees someone who is capable of a depth of connection that most people never experience. He sees someone who is not too much, but who has been giving too much of themselves to people who couldn't hold it. He sees someone who is not broken, but who has been placing their wholeness in spaces that were too small for it. He sees someone who is not unlucky in love, but who has been practicing love with people who are still learning how to love themselves. And he sees someone who is ready. Finally, truly, ready, not just for love, but for the right love. The aligned love. The love that doesn't require you to shrink. The love that doesn't make you question your worth at 4 a.m. The love that doesn't need you to be less, so that they can feel like more. That love is coming. And the relationship that just ended was the last obstacle between you and it. But now I must speak to you with urgency. Because heaven's protection comes with a responsibility. And I would not be doing my duty if I sent you this message without speaking plainly about what needs to change. Are you listening? Because this part matters. You cannot keep going back. Every time you feel the pull to reach out to that person. Every time the loneliness of 4 a.m. makes you want to break down and send that message. Every time you convince yourself that maybe it's different now. Maybe they've changed. Maybe you're being too hard on them. I need you to hear this. What God has separated, do not reconnect. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I'm not saying that person is evil. I'm not saying they don't have good in them. But what I am saying is this. Right now, in this season, going back would be like a patient walking out of surgery. Before the procedure is complete, you are in the middle of something sacred. You are in the middle of a healing that heaven initiated. And interrupting it, because the process feels uncomfortable, because the loneliness feels louder than the wisdom, would cost you far more than you realize. The enemy knows your weakest moments. He will use them. He will send a text at 2 a.m. that feels like a sign. He will create a coincidence that feels like divine timing. He will make you feel like going back is faith. But it isn't. Going back right now is not faith. Going back right now is fear. And God does not lead through fear. He leads through peace. So ask yourself, when you think about going back, is there peace, or is there just relief from the discomfort of waiting? Those are not the same thing. Peace says, this is right. Relief says, this ends the pain. And anything built on the need to end the pain will eventually create more of it. You deserve better than relief. You deserve peace. Now let me tell you about divine redirection. Because that is what this really is. This isn't abandonment. This isn't failure. This isn't you being left behind. This is redirection. When God redirects you, it can feel like every road is closing. It can feel like walls are going up everywhere. It can feel like the universe is working against you. But what's really happening is this. The path you were on was not leading to your purpose. It was leading somewhere else. Somewhere comfortable, maybe. Somewhere familiar. But not somewhere aligned with the life you were made to live. And God, because He loves you too much to watch you wander, changed the road, closed the door, redirected the GPS. And right now you're in that moment. You know the moment when the GPS says, recalculating. And everything feels uncertain. Because you can't see the new route yet. You only know the old one has changed. But the recalculation is almost complete. A new direction is forming. And when it becomes clear, you're going to look back at this moment. This exact, painful, confusing 4 a.m. moment, and you are going to understand. You're going to see the full picture. And you are going to be grateful. Not for the pain, but for the protection. Not for the loss, but for the redirection. Not for the ending, but for what the ending made possible. I want to give you something concrete to hold on to. Because faith needs anchors. And sometimes in the middle of confusion, you need evidence that you are not alone. Think back. Before this relationship ended, were there signs? Moments where something inside you tried to warn you. A feeling you dismissed. A conversation that triggered something you buried quickly. A dream that felt significant. A moment of clarity that came and went. An instinct that you overruled because love felt stronger. Those were not coincidences. Those were communications. From the same place this message is coming from. Heaven has been trying to get your attention for a while. Gently at first. Then through louder and louder disruptions. Until finally, the relationship itself became the message. Its ending became the undeniable alarm. The thing too big to ignore. The thing that forced you to stop. To sit in the quiet. To ask the questions you'd been avoiding. Where am I going? Who am I becoming? Is this the life I was made for? God allowed the ending. Because God needed those questions to surface. Because those questions are the beginning of your real story. Not the story of a person who lost something. But the story of a person who found something far more valuable. Themselves. Their purpose. Their direction. Their peace. I want to give you permission to feel something right now. I know you've been holding it together. I know you've been strong. I know you've been telling yourself, I'm fine. I'll get through this. I'm okay. And that strength is real. It is. But strength doesn't mean you can't grieve. Strength doesn't mean you can't acknowledge how much this hurt. How much it still hurts. You loved that person. Or you loved what you hoped they would be. Or you loved who you were when things were good. All of that was real. The love was real. The hope was real. The investment was real. And it's okay to grieve all of that. You don't have to pretend it was nothing. You don't have to rush to lessons learned before you've let yourself feel the weight of the loss. So if you need to cry right now, cry. If you need to sit in the grief for a moment, sit. If you need to acknowledge that this broke something in you, acknowledge it. Because here is something heaven wants you to know. The broken places in you are not permanent. They are the exact places where healing enters. The exact places where light gets in. The exact places where God does His deepest work. Your brokenness is not your weakness. Your brokenness is your invitation. An invitation for something greater to enter. Something truer, something stronger, something built not on infatuation or fear or desperate hoping, but built on a foundation that does not shake. Now I want to speak to your identity. Because one of the most significant casualties of a painful relationship is your sense of self. Over time, in an unhealthy dynamic, you stop knowing who you are outside of that person. Your preferences become blurry. Your dreams start to feel selfish. Your needs feel like too much. Your emotions feel like a burden. You start to see yourself through the lens of how that person saw you. And if that lens was clouded, if that lens was limited, if that lens was filtered through their own damage and fear and unresolved wounds, then what you saw of yourself was never truly you. It was a distortion. And today, right now, heaven is asking you to look into a different mirror. Not the mirror of that person's perception. Not the mirror of your grief. Not the mirror of your worst 4 a.m. thoughts. The mirror of God's truth. And in that mirror, here is what you see. You see someone created with intention. You see someone with gifts that are uniquely yours. You see someone with a calling that no one can take from you. You see someone who is worthy of love that lifts them higher. Not love that requires them to be smaller. You see someone who has survived every single hard thing in their life. Not by luck, but by something inside them that is unbreakable. You see someone who is connected to a divine source. Even when they don't feel it. Even at 4 a.m. Even in the dark. Even in the silence. Connected. Always connected. That person in the mirror is you. And it's time to remember them. Now let me speak to you practically. Because spiritual truth that doesn't translate into action remains only inspiration. And this message was not sent to merely inspire you. It was sent to move you. To shift you. To activate something in you. So let me give you real guidance. Real steps. First, guard your mornings. Especially the early mornings. The hours between 3 and 5 a.m. are spiritually active hours. If you wake up in those hours, and you feel the darkness pulling at you, do not reach for your phone. Do not open social media. Do not check to see if they've been active. Do not read old messages. Instead, breathe, speak, even if your voice is just a whisper. Say, I am covered. I am protected. I am guided. Say it until your spirit settles. Because in those hours, what you speak matters. What you focus on matters. Where your attention goes, energy flows. And in those vulnerable early morning hours, you are either planting seeds of healing, or you are watering seeds of despair. Choose carefully. Second, begin to reclaim your solitude. Right now, solitude might feel like punishment, like loneliness, like a sentence. But solitude is not punishment. Solitude is where you reconnect with yourself. It is where God speaks most clearly. In the quiet, in the stillness, in the absence of noise. Start sitting with yourself, even for 10 minutes a day. No phone, no music, no distraction, just you and the silence. And in that silence, start asking questions. Who am I without that relationship? What do I actually want? What makes me feel alive? What have I been putting off? What part of me went quiet while I was in that relationship? The answers will come, not all at once, but they will come, and each answer is a thread pulling you back to yourself. Third, be very careful who you process this with. Not everyone who offers to listen is equipped to hold what you're going through. Some people will minimize it. Some people will project their own experiences onto yours. Some people will give you advice that keeps you stuck. Be discerning. Choose one trusted voice. Maybe a counselor. Maybe a spiritual mentor. Maybe a friend whose wisdom you genuinely trust. But only one. Too many voices right now will fragment you further. You need clarity. And clarity comes from stillness, not from noise. Fourth, stop trying to understand everything. I know that's hard. The analytical mind wants an answer. It wants a reason. It wants a clear story of why this happened and what it means. But some things are only understood in retrospect. Some things only make sense when you're standing further down the road. Right now, the most important thing is not to understand. The most important thing is to trust. Trust that there is a plan. Trust that what has been taken was taken for a reason. Trust that what is coming is better than what you lost. Trust, even when you can't see. Especially when you can't see. Now I want to speak about what is coming. Because this message is not only about what you've been through. It's about what is being prepared for you. And I want to be clear. What is coming into your life is not just a replacement for what you lost. It is not the same thing in a different package. It is something fundamentally different. Something you've never had before. You've had love that required performance. What is coming is love that accepts your reality. You've had love that felt conditional. What is coming is love that holds steady. You've had love that made you feel uncertain of your place. What is coming is love in which you are never in question. You've had love that dimmed your light. What is coming reflects it back to you. You've had love that was attached to a version of yourself that wasn't fully true. What is coming sees you, the real you, the whole you, and chooses you anyway, not despite your complexity, but because of it. That love is not far away. It is not a fantasy. It is not wishful thinking. It is already in motion. It is already being guided toward you. And the journey it is taking is matching the journey you are currently on. Which means, every day that you heal, every day that you choose yourself, every day that you grow, you are getting closer to that love, not by searching for it, but by becoming ready for it. The work you do on yourself right now is not just personal development. It is preparation, divine preparation, for what heaven has already chosen for you. I want to speak to the version of you that only comes out at midnight. At 4 a.m., in the quiet, when you think no one is watching, when the smile comes off, when the strength puts itself to bed, when it's just you and your thoughts and the dark and the silence. I want to speak directly to that version of you, because that is the truest version of you. The unedited version. The version that hasn't had time to put on armor. And to that version of you, I say this: you are not alone. You never were. I am Archangel Michael, and I have stood at your threshold every single night that you lay there and wondered if you were going to be okay. I was there, every single night that the weight felt unbearable. I was there, every single night that you almost picked up that phone. I was there, keeping that impulse from landing. Keeping the door of that old connection from reopening. Not because I don't understand the longing, but because I can see what's on the other side of it. And on the other side of that door is not healing. On the other side of that door is the same cycle, the same pattern, the same pain in a familiar costume. But on this side of the door, the side you're standing on right now, on this side, there is light being prepared. There is a morning coming. Not just a literal morning. A morning in your life. An emergence. A rising. A version of your life that you have not yet been able to imagine. Because what is coming is beyond what your current imagination has access to. It's beyond the grief. It's beyond the confusion. It's beyond the 4 a.m. darkness. It is a sunrise. Your sunrise. And it is closer than you know. Before this message comes to a close, I want to give you an assignment. Not a religious assignment, not a complicated assignment, a personal one. Something just between you and heaven. Tonight, when the world gets quiet, when you're lying in that bed, when the thoughts start, before you let them spiral, I want you to do this. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to put your hand on your chest. Right over your heart, and I want you to feel it. The beating, the rhythm, the stubborn, beautiful, unrelenting proof that you are alive. That heart you're feeling. God made that. And everything that heart has been through, every break, every disappointment, every confusion, every grief, that heart is still beating. Do you understand what that means? It means you are still here, still in the game, still chosen, still purposed, still worth protecting, still worth fighting for. That heartbeat is not just biology. That heartbeat is God's declaration over your life. I'm not done with you yet. This story isn't over. I have more for you. Hold on. Feel that. Hold on to that tonight. And every night this week. Let that be your prayer. Let that be your anchor. Let that heartbeat remind you that heaven hasn't abandoned you. Heaven is working, even right now, even in the silence, even in the uncertainty. It is working on your behalf. If this message has reached something real in you today, if something in your spirit feels different after hearing these words, that is not coincidence. That is confirmation. Stay open to receiving more guidance like this. Messages from this channel are sent specifically for people who are in the middle of their turning point. If that is you, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. I want to close this message with something that I carry with me always. A truth that I speak over every soul that I am assigned to protect. You were not placed on this earth to be broken down. You were placed on this earth to be built up. And sometimes, the building requires deconstruction first. Sometimes the old structure has to come down before the new one can rise. What you're experiencing right now is not demolition. It is renovation. Heaven is renovating you. And if you've ever been through a renovation, you know it looks terrible in the middle. There's rubble. There's dust. There's chaos. There's a period where things look worse than they did before the work started. But the contractor knows the plan. The architect sees the finished design. And God is the architect of your life. He sees what you cannot yet see. He sees the finished version of you. And it is beautiful. It is whole. It is loved. It is purposeful. It is free. And it is coming. All you have to do right now, all that is being asked of you in this season, is to stay. Stay in the renovation. Don't leave the construction site. Don't go back to the old building just because it felt familiar. Stay. Trust the process. Trust the architect. Trust that he does not make mistakes. And trust that everything that has fallen apart in your life recently did not fall by accident. It fell by design. Divine design. For your benefit. For your future. For your freedom. So I leave you now with this. Not a goodbye. An assurance. I am not leaving you. I am never more than a breath away from you. Every morning when you wake up and reach for clarity, I am there. Every night when the darkness gets loud, I am there. Every moment between the grief and the hope, I am there. Standing watch. Keeping vigil. Holding the line. You are deeply loved. More than you have ever been able to receive. You are carefully watched over. More than you have ever been able to perceive. You are being guided, even when the path feels invisible. Even when the silence feels like absence. It is not absence. It is preparation. And you who found this message today. You who sat with it. You who let it reach the real parts of you. You are not random. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are exactly where the journey requires you to be. And the next chapter of your life, the chapter that begins on the other side of this pain, is already written, in heaven's ink, in the language of your highest purpose. And it is extraordinary. Now go. Rest. Let your heart be still. Let your mind release what it cannot control. And let heaven continue the work it began in you the moment you were born. The work that relationship could not stop. The work that breakup could not undo. The work that 4 a.m. darkness cannot dim. The work of making you whole. The work of bringing you home. To yourself. To your purpose. To a love worthy of who you truly are. You are covered. You are protected. You are guided. And you are never, never alone. This message was delivered for you. From heaven, with love. Heavenly blessings.